Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our November meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. As is our custom at this time, I'm going to ask Officer Ott if he would please come forward, and if we'd all be kind enough to stand, Officer Ott will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Officer Ott. For those of you that are here for the first time, let me give you a little insight on how we're going to conduct the meeting. The first thing that we will concern ourselves with is the consent agenda. These are applications that not only this board has reviewed, but our professional and our engineering staff have reviewed. Also, our zoning staff has reviewed. To our knowledge, there's no known opposition to any of these particular cases. So as we go forward, John Peterson, our head zoning administrator, will read each case into the record. And as he does, the applicant, as their name is called, he or she will raise their hand to identify themselves. Likewise, if there's anybody here in opposition to any of these particular cases, if the opposition would raise their hand and identify themselves, and if we do have opposition to any of those particular cases, we will pull the case off the consent agenda and hear it in its regular numeric order as it comes up. The next course of business is our regular agenda. Again, Mr. Peterson will read these into the record. The applicant, he or she, will identify themselves as being present. Likewise, the opposition, they will identify themselves as being present. And as we go forward, the applicant at that time will have a 10-minute period to make a presentation to this board. Likewise, and collectively, the opposition will have a 10-minute period to make their opposition known to this board. So if you have more than one speaker, just be cognizant of the fact that you only have a 10-minute period. Once that's concluded, that should finish us up for the day. So with that said, I'm going to ask Mr. Peterson if he has any special comments to make. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's one case on today's printed agenda, which has been withdrawn without prejudice, will not be heard today. That's variance case V122, Juan C. Banda. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice, will not be heard today. Mr. Chairman, Board, there is one case on today's printed agenda in which the variance board needs to continue until next month. That's variance case V86, Lauren Canatella. There's additional work that needs to be performed on this, Mr. Chairman, so the staff would ask the variance board to continue this case until your December 13th date.
All right, I will turn that over to Mr. Skip Gunther, who represents that district. Skip?
I think John just said it exactly right. There's additional work that has to do with the sewer easement, and so it's going to take until next month to get that resolved. So do I need to make a motion?
Yes, you do.
I'd like to make a motion, we take it off today's consent agenda and we continue that until our next hearing in December.
Second. Motion second. No other comments. Call for the vote. All signify by voting. Okay, that's a unanimous, Madam Secretary. That's a 5-0 vote to continue case V86 till our next scheduled meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I would like to ask the people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on it. The ringing does interfere with broadcast and presentations, so if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off. The following announcement concerns variance applications requesting a reduction in lot size or a reduction in public road frontage relating to the official code of Cobb County, Georgia, Chapter 134, adopted by the Board of Commissioners on July 28, 2015. Applicants are advised that variance applications requesting a reduction in lot size or public road frontage, which are approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, takes the form of a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, who makes the final determination whether to grant the special exception for the requested lot size reduction or road frontage reduction. There are two applications on today's agenda, which this rule applies. First case is variance case V119, Wilbur and Andrea Radford. Second one is variance case V121, Hurt Road Baptist Church. The applicants are instructed that if the Board of Zoning Appeals approves these variance applications, a representative would need to be present at the Board of Commissioners zoning hearing on Tuesday, December 19, 2017 at 9 a.m. for a final determination. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
All right, John, let's just jump right into it.
Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for November 15, 2015, 2017. First case is variance case V112. Jose Luis Rodriguez requests a variance to waive the front setback from required 40 feet to 36 feet and to allow parking on a non-hardened and treated surface, which is a gravel driveway, in land lot 308 of the 18th District. The property is located on the north side of Cardell Road, west of South Gordon Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Traffic comments, applicant to permit structure, and applicant to paint a fence, with the zoning division manager approving the final color. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V112? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V113, Donald Bratton requests a variance to waive the front setback from required 35 feet to 9 feet, allow parking on a non-hardened and treated surface, which is a gravel drive, and waive the side setback from 10 feet to 4.8 feet along the east property line in land lot 445 of the 16th District. The property is located on the north side of Housley Road, west of Skyview Lane. Staff recommends approval, subject to traffic comments and stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V113? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V114, Lux Homes Incorporated requests a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface coverage from 35% to 40%, and to allow the pool equipment to be to the side of the principal building in land lot 1043 of the 16th District. The property is located on the east side of Summit Drive, south of Hillwood Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V114? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V115, Kenneth Shields requests a variance to waive the rear setback from required 30 feet to 22 feet in land lot 692 of the 17th District. The property is located on the northeast side of Chelton Court, north of Chelton Way, and on the west side of Oakdale Road, and on the south side of Main Street. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V115? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V116, Nancy Milligan requests a variance to waive the maximum height of a fence along a roadway from required 6 feet to 8 feet in land lots 737 and 738 of the 16th District. The property is located at the eastern terminus of Bungalow Park Lane, east of Bungalow Park Drive, on the north side of Kincaid Road, and on the western side of Sandy Plains Road. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V116? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V118, Cheryl Brand requests a variance to waive the rear setback from required 35 feet to 26 feet in land lot 258 of the 16th District. The property is located on the east side of Pebble Hill Drive, east of Camrose Place. Staff recommends approval, subject to the applicant to apply and receive a building permit. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V118? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V119, Wilbur and Andrea Radford request a variance to waive the minimum public road frontage from required 75 feet to 46.75 feet for the proposed out-sale parcel in land lots 61 and 88 of the 19th District. The property is located at the southern terminus of Morrison Road, west of Mays Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to fire department comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V119? I'll let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V120, Impact Worship Center, requested variance to allow an electronic sign on a lot with less than 200 feet of public road frontage on one road in land lots 405 and 498 of the 18th District. The property is located on the north side of Mapleton Parkway and on the east side of Queen Mill Road. northwest of Honeycutt Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to traffic comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V120? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case of V121, Hurt Road Baptist Church, request a variance to allow an illuminated electronic sign for a church on a major collector roadway. Waive the maximum allowable sign area from 32 square feet to 35 square feet, and the waive the minimum lot size for a church from required 5 acres to 4.639 acres in land lot 195 of the 17th district. The property is located on the south side of Hurt Road across from Brooks Court. Staff recommends approval, subject to fire department comments. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V121? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V123, Evangelos M. Domesta House and Joyce B. Domesta House request a variance to allow an accessory structure, which is a solar panel and barn, on a lot without a primary structure. Waive the setbacks for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for the solar panels, required 10 feet to 3 feet adjacent to the northern property line, and from 40 feet to 30 feet adjacent to the front property line, in land lot 379 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Knight Road, south of Blackwell Lane. Staff recommends approval, subject to the site plan contained in the variance analysis. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V123? Mr. Chairman, there's one person opposed, so we'll pull that in here.
We'll pull that in here, yes, sir.
Okay. And that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Okay. It is back to this board for discussion on any of these particular cases. Does anybody have any comments?
I'm going to ask if Kevin and the lady that raised her hand could go maybe out in their thing and
Sure.
see what her questions are. Maybe it's something he can answer.
On the case 123,
123.
if there's Kevin Moore, the attorney, the opposition, would you like to go out in the vestibule and discuss that? It'll be about 10 minutes before we hear the case. You don't want to discuss it, or you will?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That would be great.
Thank you. All right, so we're still back to the consent agenda. Is there any comments from anybody there on this? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of V123
And V86.
and V86.
And I'll second.
And a second. Okay. Any other comments? Not hearing any. Let's call for the vote. Okay, that's a unanimous decision that we approve everything on the consent agenda, excluding V86 and V23 that we will hear. 123. Let me also remind the case V119 and the case V121, you have to be here December the 19th at 9 o'clock to get the final approval from the Board of Commissioners. Okay, with that said, we've taken the motion, we've approved it. Ladies and gentlemen, your business is complete with us for today. You're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave. If you leave, please leave quietly, and we will continue with our business. Thank you. As you go home, spend a lot of money in Cobb County because we certainly need the tax base. And a happy Thanksgiving, that's right. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
What would you do with that?
My stooge on the right-hand side has done a wonderful job keeping me up to date. Our officer of the day is Miss Bates, so as we continue on, those that are going to give testimony will come forward. Miss Bates will swear these folks in, and then we'll go with the testimony. So, John, do you want to read into the record our first case, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Variance case V117, Edward T. Whitley requests a variance to waive the rear setback from required 35 feet to 30 feet, which is existing. Allow an accessory structure, which is a 700 square foot proposed garage to be located to the side of the principal structure, and the waive the required setbacks for the accessory structure over 650 square feet for the proposed 700 square foot proposed garage from required 100 feet to 12 feet adjacent to the side property line and to 31 feet adjacent to the rear property line in land lot 581 of the 19th district. The property is located on the western side of Kanawha Court, south of Tanakwa Bend. Is the applicant present? I'll let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of B-117? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Pardon? No,
We're going to hear it.
this is the email.
All right, let me just go forward by saying that we have audio-visual equipment here if Mr. Whiteley needs any help or anything. So with that said, for the purpose of the record, sir, if you would, please give us your name.
Edward T. Whiteley.
All right, Mr. Whiteley, you want to tell us what you want to do, what you're here for?
At the end of my driveway, it's squared off, so I have a back out from my garage, the current garage, which is attached. And what I'd like to do is build a building at the end of that, large enough to put in a workshop. I do woodworking of various kinds. I haven't sold anything, don't plan on really selling anything, but I do woodworking for the neighbors and for friends. But it'll be approximately 24 feet by 29 feet, 24 feet wide. It'll have 10-foot walls on the inside, and it will be, approximately at the peak, somewhere around 18 feet high, with a current 8 to 12 or 8-12 slope of most of the buildings in the neighborhood. It does not encroach on my neighbors to my left. I've got 12 feet on that line, and I've talked to him, extensively about the building. There's no room behind the lot. It drops off pretty quickly once you get past. You would need something, sir?
No, I was just going to recommend, David, can we put this on the screen? This is the survey, and you can refer to that as you speak.
Okay.
Just give him 1 second. And we will give you a microphone and a pointer, and you could point out your existing lot and where you're going to build a building, the reason you can't build it anywhere else.
I do this right. Yes.
Now, first of all, if you look up there, you'll see what we're looking at.
Okay.
So now you can go ahead and explain to us where you're going to build the building, sir.
Okay, as you can see, this driveway already is built this way. It has a turnaround. The garage is here. It's a side-loading garage. Currently, it's all flat land out in here. The property does drop severely once you get past about 40 feet from the driveway edge. On the other side, it's fairly flat as well. I probably have more room on that side, but the easements are much more restrictive, and it drops starting at the end of the house approximately 10 feet till it gets back in here. So it's a considerable drop off in that region. Either side, though, would have to have variances. This side is flat already. What I'm planning on doing is building a building that's 24 feet wide, centered on the edge of the driveway, and it'll go back about 29 feet from there to give me the 700 feet square foot.
Okay.
Like I said, it will have 10-foot walls. The house itself has 10-foot plus interior walls, and it will have about an 18-foot peak that will be facing the road. It'll be a double wide garage door, but it will be 5 panels. Most garage doors are 4 panels, so it will be a taller garage opening. I drive a pretty good sized truck, and sometimes I'd like to park it inside.
Give us an idea how this is going to be built. Who's designing it? Is it going to match the other house?
The siding on the house will be the same as the siding on siding on the garage will be just like my garage. I'm not going to put rock in the front of it. My house has a little bit of stonework in the front, but I'm not going to put stone on it. But it will be sided exactly like the rest of the house. The paints will match. The roof will match to the best of my ability as far as the paint goes. Home Depot has plans for garages such as this. It'll be so that's where I'm going to get the plans. But I have done construction in the past as far as building things, not quite this big, but I have built other things that are fairly good size. Being a woodworker, this is actually a minor construction job, other than the size of it.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Like I say, I do woodworking. I don't sell things. I do working for myself and for friends that need things made. But as far as building things to sell, no.
All right, anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, sir.
All right, just stay right there. Is there anybody here in opposition to case V-117? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Ms. Sheffield, Monique represents that district, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sheffield.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Mr. Whiteley, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me both on yesterday and on last week. I did receive an email on yesterday which you and I spoke about, and there's a little opposition to the building that you're looking to place there. But the opposition is that the concern is that the garage door will be too high. Now, you gave us the description in terms of the width of the building.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
you have any idea at this point how high the garage doors will be?
Well, my current garage is a 4-panel and it stands a little over 6 feet, so I suspect it'll be somewhere near 8 feet
Okay,
for the door.
okay. You know, the person in opposition is concerned that it would be 10 feet. And the person also communicated that the average garage doors are 8 feet. Even if it's 10 feet, I don't see an issue with it.
Right.
Based on my research, a standard garage door size is anywhere between 8 and 10 feet. So I don't believe that there would be an issue there. The other concern is that there may be business conducted out of that building, but you confirm that you do not plan to conduct any business out of that building. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I don't see any reason not, I mean, unless you guys have any additional questions.
Well, let's turn it over. Anybody else have any comments or questions? So,
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, I don't have any issue. Yeah, did you want to add
have-
something?
I have one question.
Sure.
I'm reading through what was written about it. It said sewer management, site grading plan approval by stormwater permitting. All roof downspouts for new garage should be directed to drain to the street. Ma'am, the street drains right through there. I mean, I've had water 2 inches deep running from across my drive when the rain has been heavy, headed towards that culvert in the back of the house.
so the property drops
The
naturally?
property
is that what
drops
you're saying?
naturally in that direction.
We have somebody here that can probably answer that question. Let me-
Yeah,
All right, is there any other questions?
I
While
don't
David-
have any.
I tell you, I've got a couple. One is the height of the building, you've agreed, is the door that's going to, tell us what kind of garage door it's going to be.
It'll look similar, it's standard house
That rolls
garage
up,
door.
yeah.
It will
Goes
just
up
be
and goes
taller.
back.
Right, it'll just be taller.
It's not, doesn't open like
ma'am.
this,
No,
just
sir.
goes up and goes back.
Right.
You're not putting are you putting any plumbing into this building at all?
No, it'll have electrics
Electric?
for the tools.
Sure.
Right.
David, are you
Probably a
back?
garage door opener, but
Are you ready to come up? Okay. If you would just stand back, we're going to bring David Braden up, who's our stormwater management expert, and he can discuss that with you. Well, now we get a nice picture of your house, so we could see the contour, we could see what's going on. Very good.
We don't have our GIS guy here today, so.
We miss him too. You let him know that.
Based on the county's 2-foot GIS topo, which should be pretty well definitive with no trees to be able to block it, you can see here that based on the county's topo, there's about a 1.5 to 2 feet of fall from the location right here at the top of the driveway to the street. I was just wanting to make sure, because this is a separate subdivision, I wanted the runoff from any additional pervious area to drain into the subdivision to the street and get into the infrastructure rather than drain back into the neighboring property to the rear. I think it can be done if all it really would require is when they pull their building permit, just bring the plan to stormwater management. We can verify that the drainage direction is adequate.
Okay, Mr. Whiteley, what he's saying essentially is as you go through the plans, they will have a plan review situation with you where you will sit down and they'll go over all that with you.
Okay.
I have found that our county staff, their main job in life is to work with the citizens. So they'll do everything they can to make sure it works. So that's a minor comment, and I think that's a
Okay.
plan review, so I wouldn't get too concerned over that. David, you have anything else you want to add?
Thank you.
Did you guys have?
Any other comments for Mr. Whiteley? Okay, Monique, we're ready for a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the application.
And I got a motion, I got a second. Let me just add that you may want to add no
Right.
living in the building and no business conducted in the business.
Right.
Building. So we'll add those in. Madam Secretary, you got that? Girls, shake your heads or smile at me. Do something. Pardon me? Staff. And staff.
And staff comments.
Okay, I've got a motion, I got a second. All those in favor signify by voting yes or no, and it looks like we've got a unanimous decision, 5-0. I understand you just retired from the military, sir, is that correct?
Actually, it's been 3 years now,
3 years, and you were at Dobbins for a period of time?
10 years.
10 years. Well, we appreciate your service. We appreciate you living in Cobb County. We need your tax dollars, so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Have a wonderful day.
Yes, sir. Is it
Okay, thank
I
you.
go?
You can go, yes, sir. John, where am I?
We're to the one case that was pulled off consent agenda, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
let's pull it up.
Variance case V-123, Evangelos M. Domesta House and Joyce B. Domesta House request a variance to allow an accessory structure for structures which are solar panels in a barn on a lot without a primary building. We have the setbacks for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for the solar panels required 10 feet to 3 feet adjacent to the northern property line, and from required 40 feet to 30 feet adjacent to the front property line, and land lot 379 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Knight Road, south of Blackwell Lane. The applicant is present. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward and be sworn in.
All right, for the purpose of the record, sir, if you would, please give us your name.
Certainly. Thank you and good afternoon. I'm Kevin Moore here on behalf of the applicant and owner in this application for a variance. This particular property is located on Knight Road. The entire tract is actually for this owner, Dr. Domesta House, is just under 9 acres, almost a 9-acre site that he has put together. It consists of actually 2 tracts, one of which there has been constructed a solar array for personal power purposes, which is something that you see quite often now in various installations and in various uses and so forth that are encouraged not only by our local state and national power companies, but also by our state and national government. So first, let me kind of give you an idea of where this is and how it's arranged, and so it offers a little bit better context for the property and for the variance request itself. Thanks, David. First, just to turn to an overhead that gives you an idea, this is Knight Road here in this location. And you see what's labeled as 3550 Knight Road. And that's really, this is comprised of 2 tracts, basically about a 6.5 acre tract, which is the large tract with the home located on it. There's also an additional tract that was purchased that's about just over 2 acres, and it's this tract here. This is another home here, 3540. That's a house and a home that's not owned by this applicant and separate apart. And then south, this is Ebenezer Farm subdivision that's located here. Where we're talking about specifically and where the solar panels were installed is right against this particular property line in this location, and we'll get you more specific as well. But just trying to give you an overall context about where that is located, and in particular, the fact that it only affects this one property line in terms of a setback issue, which we'll also discuss. but that kind of gives you that overall sense of where this is. Now I want to turn exactly to the site plan, so you can even get a more specific idea. In this instance, again, we have Knight Road located here, and that's that long, just over 2 acre tract that we talked about that's a part of the overall 9 acres. And you can see they also own the surrounding 6.5 acres, and here is the one property. And you can see it's pointed out here where that's located. It's located just against that one property line in that particular location. Now I'm going to kind of go through some more specific pictures so you can also see what we're talking about. Let's do the other ones. Let's do that one. Okay. This is the picture of the driveway coming in on the tract from Knight Road here. This property is the Domesta House's property. So it surrounds here. Here's that the house that we were pointing to that's the adjacent property surrounded by the 9 acre tract. And here you can see the solar panels and where they were installed. This picture was taken at or about the time of the application. Since that time, though, the owner and applicant, Dr. Domesta House, has done additional plantings along Knight Road so as to, on his own accord, in order to provide additional screening and make sure that visually speaking, that would have minimal, if any, impact. And I'll show you that picture now. And you can see that same fence. This is again taking a picture from Knight Road looking back towards, and you can just barely see start to see where that solar panel is located here. Those trees have now been planted. Those were all 6 to 8 foot minimum tall holly trees that have been planted along the fence line. Those things grow up to 15, 20 and more feet in height, and were planted entirely along this fence line and also continuing on. We'll go back to that first picture. They were also planted in this area here, an additional 3 of them along this fence line here that will completely screen the solar panels from the view of Knight Road. They completely screen it now and will completely screen it a bunch more as you go forward as those trees grow. A couple of things also that are very important in terms of this application. Number one is from a hardship standpoint, which is one of the standards and factors that this board looks at. In this instance, given this property and where on the property these solar panels could be installed, based upon the advice and opinion of the solar company, J Management Group, this is the only real location they could be placed without having to remove trees or clear land, because as you might suspect, with a solar panel installation, it has to be where the sun hits it. And it has to also be in a position where it faces south and where the sun can receive, where it can receive sun during the part of the day, and it has to face south. That's how they are most efficient, most effective, and they actually work. This is where that location is on this property. Anywhere else, it's covered by tree. You got tree coverage and other issues, and it can't be in a better or useful location other than where it is. But importantly, with that also is that we have obtained the consent of the only owners that actually affects. And you saw the house that's there. Those owners have consented to this application. I just want to make sure that's provided for the record to the clerk. That they consented to the reduction of the side setback. They've been longtime neighbors and had no issue with this whatsoever, especially given the tree plantings that have already occurred. And they're the only ones in reality who are affected at any level, is that adjacent owner. In addition, you might wonder, well, why is this thing already built? It seems like you're asking for forgiveness instead of permission. And I want to address that issue as well, because I think that's also an important issue. In this instance, you had the company that installed the solar panels, sought the appropriate permits from Cobb County. Obviously, they need an electrical permit. They were given those permits. They were going through the process. Cobb County inspections and electrical department were involved every step of the way. It was a permitted project. It wasn't until the very end, after it had been constructed, that somebody picked up on, well, does this need a review by zoning, because it may involve a setback. The solar company, J Management Group, in fact, said, well, we've never had to do that before in any other jurisdiction that we've worked in. But we're happy to, and it was that point in time that it was determined and discovered that, well, here, this type of solar panel will constitute a structure and therefore need a variance. So it wasn't, despite the prior reviews and the prior involvement of the county in building it, it happens sometimes. Sometimes there's not a clear path for something of this nature, something that you don't see a good bit, and you can tell it doesn't really readily jump out at you as, well, this is a structure. It's not a house. It's not a covered structure. It's simply poles with solar panels on them. But regardless, out of accommodation to that, and we've applied for the variance to allow for that solar panel to remain. It's in the location it needs to be in. We don't believe it affects any other property or any other owner in any material way. And in fact, it affects no one else on any level whatsoever, except for the adjoining neighbor, whom we've, again, received their consent, and that has now been established for you for the record. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have, as well as the owner and applicant, and we would respectfully request your approval of the variance. Again, please note that the one variance as it relates to the barn is because this 2.2 acre tract is still held as a separate tract, as you saw on the tax parcel, and that's where the barn is located. So it's not, there's no primary structure on this. The prior primary structure was a dump, and it was destroyed and removed and demolished. So that's why you see the reference to the barn, because it's still on this separate tract. But otherwise, it's held by the same owner as their home place and where they live. Thank you again for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. At this time, we'll hear from the opposition.
Good afternoon. My name is Dana Tucker Davis, and I'm an attorney here.
All right,
And-
let me stop you right there. Let me get him on the record now with his name. Your name, sir?
My name is Homer Crothers.
Crothers.
I'm the president of the board for the Ebenezer Farm Homeowners Association.
Okay. And you are Miss Davis?
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead.
Well, actually, I was going to introduce Mr. Carruthers
Okay.
first so that he can tell you the position that Ebenezer Farm subdivision is taking as it relates to this application. He has some photos. In addition, I'm here on behalf of Timothy and Emma Ponder, Pondr. They own the lot that was reflected. They own 3488 and 3484.
Okay.
And Ms. Ponder is actually in the emergency room, and she called me from the emergency room to tell me to tell you guys on the record that she is there. That's why she's not here herself.
Well, we certainly hope she's going to be okay.
I think she is. I'll follow up with her. So Mr. Carruthers is going to go through
Okay.
the issues that the association has spotlighted, because they went through the application, and because there's missing information, they didn't know whether or not they should or could oppose the application. So this is not really an opposition in that they have a lot of unanswered questions. So he's going to show you his photos and his issues, and then I'm going to kind of summarize it.
Okay, thank you. When you're seeing the same picture that you saw before, and the solar panel is in this area right here as it was described. And looking over the material that I received on a Saturday and looking at the variance, and it was the first that I'd heard about it, I began to wonder as I went through all the information where this solar panel was located, and not being able to get the kind of direct information off of the documentation that I had, I walked Knight Road and found it. The borderline, the property line that you see right here is the property line between the applicant's property and Ebenezer Farm subdivision. Now, this is only a small part of the subdivision. There are 95 lots. 93 of them have structures. 92 of them do not. Address, Knight Road address 3488 and 3484, those two are not built on. We have in our covenants, when a home is built on a lot like this next to the lake, the minimum square footage for that home will be 3,800 square feet, not counting the basement. Our concern is only this. and we wouldn't even be here if it wasn't because you needed to rule on a variance. This is R20, and so is the property at 3540 R20. What we're concerned about is when you make a decision for the variance, what will it do to the existing R values? Will it reduce R value 20 to 15? And if that is true, then we want to have some assurance in writing that these two lots, 3484 and 3488, will remain as R20 after your decision, and that they'll run with the land so that if Mr. and Mrs. Ponder do not decide to build on it, but decide to sell the property, it will sell as R20. And therefore, when a house is built, it will be built in accordance with our declaration of covenants on the minimum square footage.
Okay, so that is the position of Ebenezer Farm Association. They have covenants that they are charged with enforcing, and they believe that a couple of things. The issue, council said that it's not a situation of seeking forgiveness instead of permission, but that was the impression that we got when we saw the application, when it was mailed to us. And they felt like that because a commercial company was used to build this structure. Yes, they may have gotten zoning permissions or permits from the electrical department, but the issue is, this is a big company. When in Rome, you do as the Romans. They were in Cobb County. They should have contacted someone in zoning to get permission for that. And so this isn't my client, the Ponder's, first time hearing about applications being submitted or opposed regarding the parties that are involved in this particular application. So their position is, hey, when other owners have asked for exceptions to applications, it's been fraught with difficulty and opposition. And so they don't want anything that's going to impact their ability to sell or build on that lot to be approved unless there's a grandfathering or some kind of exception to that. And also, the hardship doesn't appear to really be a hardship. Council said it's just a pole with some solar arrays on it. If that's just the case, then move it so that it is compliance with the laws that were in effect when they went out there and built it. It's a 10-foot setback, move it. It's just poles on he said, solar arrays on poles, move it. I don't see what the hardship is. They paid for a company to come out. The company didn't do their due diligence, and they didn't do what needed to be done for the zoning commission to appropriately look at this. And so now they want to say, oh, we don't, it's a hardship. I didn't hear what the hardship was. I didn't hear there was a financial problem. I didn't hear, what it was that caused this hardship, other than we hired contractors who installed it. They didn't find out that they needed to get permission from zoning first. And so now we want you guys to give us an application approval for this variance. I didn't hear the hardship. So my position from the HOA, their concern is whether or not it's going to impact the R20 status, and it may not, but they wanted to have that on the record. And also, from the Ponder's perspective, what is the hardship and why can't it be moved to be in compliance with the laws that are on the books now? That's our presentation.
Do you have anything else you want to add? You have a little time. Anything else you want to tell us, sir? Anything you want to add? You still have a little time. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to case V-123? Either one? Okay. It's going to be back to
I just want to be sure that when or the association and the owners of the property go to build, that they can build within the framework and the requirements of the Declaration of Covenants. If they sell the property, they can sell it as it is R20, and the new owner receives it as another R20, and the new owner can build on either one of those lots according to our Declaration of Covenants requirements.
All right, let me jump right in and answer one question for you right off the bat. This board, the Cobb County does not get involved with covenants at all. That is not our responsibility. That's a civil matter, so that's something we don't take into consideration, period. The other thing is you mentioned the property being R20, it's zoned R20, it should stay R20. But under the Constitution and under the Cobb County government, everybody in this county has a right to bring in any property they want to change the zoning. So we don't have the authority to grandfather anything in or make it anything in. We don't get involved with covenants at all. So I want you to understand that we don't have any control over that. If the existing owner of that property wants to bring it in and put an RM12, he has the right to bring it in. We certainly have the right to hear the case and make a decision, but he has the constitutional right to change that property to whatever category he desires. So I just wanted to kind of get that on the record. Now, I am not responsible for that district. Ms. Williams is, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Williams. Ms. Judy is going to lead us into discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me, first of all, explain something real quick. We don't have the Board of Zoning Appeals doesn't have the authority to rezone anything. So the only thing before us, those two lots will always remain R20 unless the owners of the property ever come in and ask another board, not this board, another board if they can change it. So this has nothing to do with Ebenezer Farm. This is the only thing that this concerns is that solar panel that's adjacent to the brick house. That's it. When I went out there to look at it, my concern was the adjacent house, and we have the signature of them that they don't have a problem of it. The hardship, the way I saw it, was of getting where the sun could have direct sunlight. The house itself, where the people live, sits way back with the trees and everything. So they had a hardship. Ebenezer Farms, you will always remain the way you are unless you apply for rezoning. So the only thing before us is that one solar panel. That's the only thing before us.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, given that we have the signature of the adjacent property owner, this has no bearing on the Ebenezer Farm. It has no impact on them whatsoever. The only person that I think that it would have an impact on is the adjacent property owner, which we have the signature. I believe the clerk has the signature of that adjacent property owner. So my motion would be to approve this as presented.
All right, I've got a motion, I've got a second. Now we're in discussion stage, so does anybody else have comments? Anybody? I do have a comment and all justification. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Go right
I
ahead.
just want to make the point further, because I think Kevin Moore made it, that there are other places on that parcel where the solar panel could be, but that would require removing trees. And removing those trees would be trees that you wouldn't see from Ebenezer Farms subdivision. So in that sense, this seems like a really good solution to me.
Yes, I tend to agree, but Kevin, I've got a couple questions. I want to try to get this all cleared up at one time, so I want to bring you back up. Kevin, is it your client's intent to add anything to the existing, what you're asking for today, the existing panels
No,
in the future?
No, and the variance request is, as identified by staff, is subject to that site plan, which identifies exactly where those are located and nothing further. So there's no intent to go further with it.
No intent to go further. So I want to get that on the
Sure.
record. The other thing, let's justify why you've got a 9-acre tract and you put it right next to somebody's house.
Sure.
Again, identify just tell us why you picked that location. Is it because of the sun? Is because, what's the hardship? You didn't want to take the trees out, is that correct? I just want to kind of go over that to get that on the record.
Sure. Let me pull the right visual that
Okay.
I think does a much better job than what I was using for that. I can show you, looking at this aerial view of the property, what I was speaking of, and I think what Commissioner Gunther was also speaking of. Again, to remind you, kind of right where you see this driveway coming in, it's in that is the area right there. where the solar panels have been installed, and they're facing south. South is this direction, going down. For solar panels to be effective and efficient and do what they're supposed to do, as I understand it, this is based on the solar panel company that installs these, and that's what they do for their business. Two things need to occur. They need to be exposed to sunlight for a long period of the day, number one. Number two, they need to face south. I don't know the science behind why it has to face south, but that's what they say. And so those panels have to face south and have to be in a location where there aren't any trees covering it as the sun goes down. If you look through this property, it's a well-treed property, and especially if you go out there, you can see there's tall, a lot of mature growth trees that are located in this area and all throughout this property. If we were to relocate this or put this in some other position, it would mean having to remove trees, number one, which we don't think is a good idea for us. And number two, we don't think that's a good idea for anybody else that lives around here, including those in Ebenezer Farms. If we were to move it to comply with the 10-foot setback that we're seeking a reduction of and a waiver today in this location here, we would simply have to move it closer to Ebenezer Farms. Also, doesn't make any sense from our standpoint, especially given our relationship with the owner who signed the consent, who doesn't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
And so that's really what we're trying to put it in the best position possible for the functionality of the solar panels, keep trees from coming down, and move it as far away as possible from any neighbors other than the one.
Okay, and I wanted to get that on the record. My last question is, what are you powering? What is the power? Where does the power go to? Is it goes to the barn, the shed, or what?
Barn, shed, and house that are
Okay.
located there. It's the way that works is you have to do that. You don't do it on your own. The solar company that installs these, that's who has to install these is authorized folks who are capable of doing that. And then you do that in conjunction with your power company. In this case, it's Cobb EMC. That is a program that they have. You install solar panels, and as a result, when you generate the power from the solar panels, those are fed into the system, and you, depending on how much power you're putting in and how much power you're using, you get credits and offsets for that. So it merely powers nothing else other than their own personal use there, and it's fed into the Cobb EMC power system, and that's how that works for everybody.
And again, for the record, on this 2.22 acres, this is the end. You're not going to put any more panels up. This is all you're asking for. This is all you're going to get, and you don't expect to put any more up. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's all I need to hear.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Kevin, I do have one quick question, and I'm sure it's something that was considered. But on the far, east end of that property, is that the barn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there consideration for putting the panels on top of the barn or on the roof of the home?
Not from the
That's a good
the
question.
solar. It's a very good question, but this is a recommendation from the actual solar company that the installers about where it should be located and how it could be supported for that. So they came out and looked at it, and that's what they said this is where it should go. In essence, if you don't want to cut down trees and you don't want to, and you want to make it have the efficiency that it's designed to accommodate, those locations have shade. I mean, you can looking on an area, you're looking straight down, but as you can see, there's trees around the house and there's trees also around the barn. So it's not in a situation where it's a barn.
I just wasn't sure if the roof of the barn would have the southern exposure that they would want. Because I would think even as a homeowner, it'd be preferable to have that as opposed to, maybe where it's sitting now.
It just wasn't going to work as well, according to them. So
He's not an electrical engineer.
all I can do is we had a
Not by
report.
any means.
We have a report from the company who has provided that information. That's what I have to rely on.
All right. Any other questions? All good questions. Ms. Williams, you've got a motion, and we've got a second from Skip. No other questions. Call for the vote. All signify by voting. All right, Mr. Gunther has come in at the last minute, just like the racehorse. And that's a 5-0 vote. Kevin, you tell your clients that we're delighted to have a little solar power in Cobb County, and our folks that were here in opposition, we appreciate your voicing your opinions, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
With that said, that's approved 5-0. Anything else to come before us, John, at this time?
You do need to adopt your resolution for today.
Oh, the resolution for the dates. Do I have that, Laurie Ann? Laurie Ann?
I make a motion that we approve the calendar as presented.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second.
A second.
Second. All those in favor signify by voting. Thank you. There you go. Skip's right on the ball this time. 5-0. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple of cleanup things. We've got a special call meeting on September the 25th that we need to approve.
Make a
Also,
motion,
also November the 13th, we've got that meeting we've got to approve.
okay, make a motion that we, approve the special call meetings as presented.
All those in favor signify by voting, and Skip is right there in the beginning, and we've got a 5-0 vote. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today. Listen, we know that you could spend your time doing other things in Cobb County. We certainly appreciate the thousands of viewers that pay attention to us on a monthly basis. I'd like to wish each and every one of you a happy Thanksgiving, and talk to you next month. Thank you.